One of the neat things about chess is that when you get down to the end of the game, if one side has at least one pawn remaining, you can still win. That's because of a special rule called promotion. Now, you know pawns can't move backward, so when a pawn gets to the other side, the inventors of chess said, well, we can do one of two things. We can just leave the pawn there like a rock. What fun is it to play with a rock? Or we can develop a special rule. Let's take a look at that special rule. Let's have the white pawn advance up the chessboard, and as you can clearly see, I've made sure the black king can get close, but the black king is not going to be able to catch the pawn. When your pawn reaches the other side, it does not turn into a rock, it turns into any of the other chess pieces besides the king. You can't stay as a pawn, you can't get a king, but you can get a queen, a knight, a rook, or a bishop. And I'm here to tell you that 99% of the time, you want a queen. And of course, white should be able to go on to win this game if you know the proper technique. Now, one of the most common misconceptions about chess is that you're replacing the pawn with a captured piece. That's sort of true if your queen has been captured, but let me make this clear. If you still have your queen on the board and you get another pawn to the other side, you can and should get a second queen. Of course, online, that's not so hard. Our computer system will just give you a second queen. If you're playing in real life, you might need to have something else represent the queen, maybe a coin or something like that. But let's go on to weightier issues. In this chess position, things are not so easy because all of the white pawns have a black sentry. We're going to have to use a creative technique to make a promotion. In this famous example, white is not worried about the number of pawns. He just wants to get the promotion first because the power of the queen is that great. And the winning idea is to advance the center pawn. Of course, black better take before black's pawn gets captured. So we'll have black take this way. And now if you're white, you need to be careful not to capture back. I know it seems like, well, your pawn was captured, you should capture back. But if black takes and then you take, you've only got one pawn left and it's pretty good and well blocked by the black pawn. So we need to go back to this position. How does white force a pawn to the other side? White actually gives a second pawn. Now, if black does not take, of course, white will just take black. So when black takes, that clears out the path for this pawn because now when it advances, there is no black pawn on b7 that can capture. And again, the power of the queen is so strong that when white promotes to a queen first, by the way, sometimes we call it queening a pawn because you pretty much always want a queen. Then when black advances the pawn, the white queen is so fast, she can just move to a square like a6, collect all the pawns in the next couple of turns, and again, white should go on to win the game. In this next example, I'm showing you that as the game progresses toward the end, pawns start to go way up in value. Now, white does have a couple of ways to win this game, but let me show you one very neat way. White should play the move b6, and again, black should capture before one of his pawns is captured. And when black captures, white would actually be well advised to take with the rook. Now, pawn takes might win, but you would have to really know some excellent technique. We surprisingly can give the rook, because if the rook is captured, I know black's not required to, but white can still win even if the rook isn't captured. So let's have black capture. When white takes back, it is well known in the inner circles of chess that two pawns on the 6th rank are stronger than a rook. If you don't believe me, let me show you. Black's best try really is to attack one of those pawns, but then white just advances the other one. And when black moves the rook over to attack the original pawn, then this pawn comes up to b7, and you can see the two pawns on the 6th rank can overpower a rook. Normally a rook is worth way more than two pawns, but again, as you get closer to the end of the game, because promotion becomes the key aspect of endgames, pawns go way up in value. And in our last example, I do want to show you one of those very rare circumstances where you might promote to something besides a queen. We call this underpromotion, and you might only get to do this a handful of times in your life. Here, if white promotes to a queen, both sides will have a queen and a pawn, and the game should be a draw. But if we go back for a second, white actually had a winning idea, which is to promote to a knight. This is one of those times where promoting to something besides a queen makes sense, because black lands in an immediate fork no matter where black moves the king, because of course he's in check. The knight captures the queen, and this is a winning endgame if white follows proper technique. There you go. Pawn special rule of promotion. You're going to use this a lot, especially as you get close to the end of the game. And now you have a new appreciation for those little guys in chess.